Violent video games such as Grand Theft Auto has glamorized the game lifestyle. Terrence Stone is a young leader and former gang member. He stated, "I've seen something like 50 gang funerals where the guy in the coffin was no more than 20. The game companies don't see the family crying and the people in the coffin. They don't see the impact this has on our culture. They make or play their games in the studio, but for the kids on the street, it's real life. Video games are just one source of media." Today, I want to prove that violence in the media does influence violent behaviors and actions in real life. As an American, I am subject to watching television, always trying to watch movies, and I have participated in violent video games. But it didn't occur to me to actually bring this up because I recently noticed that I've been watching more of these programmings where they do produce and sponsor violent actions. So I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. I may not speak on everyone's behalf because maybe some of you watch little to none television, but I thought it would be a good awareness to talk about the culture of today's media, as violence is a dominant stimulation to people's attention span. So today, I will discuss whether media violence influences reality violence, if children are harmed from it, and I will cultivate on the responses that society thinks on the issue at hand. I will start off with the focus point on media influencing reality violence. In general, there are reasons and good evidence to believe that media violence does influence reality violence. In an article from the New York Times, "Does Media Violence Lead to the Right Thing?" psychologists George Comstock and Henjin Pike found that short-term effect of exposure to media violence on actual physical violence against a person was moderate to large in strength. This example means that violent behaviors does reinforce by images of mock violence, meaning that when you do participate in watching violent programming, there's this, like I said, there's a stimulation that causes, that creeps inside your subconscious and later on just kind of like impacts you to be more aggressive. As a result of continuously viewing violent programmings, a small to moderate strength relationship between watching violent video media and acts of aggression or violence in later life. So continually watching these programs does make you aggressive as you progress on in your life. This research does conduct that there's more, that the more you watch media, many of us that view television, watch movies, and play video games know that the majority of the media is advertised upon a form of violent entertainment focused towards young adults and mature audiences, yet being exposed to children not old enough to even, well, actually are old enough to use a remote control. So probably the most worrying factor of media violence is the influence it has on children and adolescents. In the book, "Is Media Violence a Problem?" the Parent Television Council quoted that in a joint signing by 6 of the United States' top public health organizations, such as the American Academics of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, and the American Medical Association, announced well over 1,000 studies point overwhelmingly to a causal connection between media violence and aggressive violence in some children. Children and teens exposed are more likely to view violence as normal behavior and become criminals themselves. Children could be subject to violence in several ways. Conditioning. Violence is an effective way to settle conflicts, or another way, violence is acceptable behavior. It's uncontrollable by the parents because they don't know how to control them. Emotional desensitization toward violence in real life, viewing violent programming, viewing it and being normal to the surrounding of what it means. So if they were to see the violent image of someone being killed, it kind of just drags on and they just kind of become jaded to the idea. As in, back then, this kind of form wouldn't be acceptable and would definitely be a debate in the House of Representatives and state, and probably would have been on a restriction. 3, it makes them more afraid and they will become victims of violence. This is more of a self-protective behavior, mistrust of others. And 4, causes them to commit real-life violence. There's a higher tendency for violent aggressiveness later on in life because of this. And as children are being exposed to mock violence and portraying it as real violence, society must approach this situation at all costs. Society responding, there has been many theories for the improvement of censorship and supervising over what children and adults should and shouldn't be watching, but yet to have been enforced. Over 3/4 of programming with violence did not carry a violent indicator to inform parents. Such indicators as ratings on the television screen, indicating that there's sexual contacts, violent contacts, drug use. Another measure that the industry cannot improve on the scheduling of the adult programming. So such programs as South Park being viewed 12 o'clock in the afternoon instead of it being broadcasted later on at a more appropriate time, so that children, when hopefully they're having their bedtimes, could not be viewed, or the parents would let them view it. So basically it's just the right appropriate times to viewing these programs. And the problem, the most obvious responsibility is for the industry officials to admit that some, and perhaps most programming is damaging towards children and other audiences. As a recap, I have talked about the relationship between media and reality violence, media violence having an impact on the development of children, and the regulations and concerns from the public eye. I hope that my speech has enlightened you all to believe that the media does in fact influence actions and behaviors in real life. But what I have not stressed in this presentation is the word cause. Media violence is only an act of influence, not causation. Richard Rose, author of more than 24 published books, states in his article, Hollow Claims About Fantasy Violence, that violence isn't learned from mock violence. There's good evidence, casual evidence, not correlational, that it's learned in personal violent encounters, beginning with the brutalization of children by their parents and their peers. As a reflection, behavioral violence and actions don't entirely exist from the value of entertainment, but from the standpoint of one's personal influences, such as parents, friends, mentors, and environments. So if you do plan on having children, make sure to regulate the amount of television, video games, and any other technology that may be coming into the age soon to come, especially Google Glass. That looks very addictive. So thank you.
Jake, what did you think?
I think it was a good dramatic intro with the gang member. It kind of connected an emotional side to it, and I wish you would have continued that emotional side to it. The rest of it kind of felt disconnected later on, and less of a connection to like these people are actually being hurt. I heard the thesis, but then there was a huge gap between that and the preview, and I felt that was a little awkward. You were reading the script a lot, not much eye contact. I felt there was a little bit of information of like what we do now. You said like our children have them not, but I felt like there would be more information of what we can do to stop this kind of stuff being out there. I felt the conclusion like opened up a new set of things that you were saying that it wasn't really tied directly to the entire speech. But overall, it was good.
Okay, I like the introduction also. I think that you've got a good idea there, and I think you could keep some more emotional involvement during the speech. It gets to be a little clinical when it comes to all the research that you present. I did appreciate that you did research and that you got it into the presentation. That worked pretty effectively. Organization, I think, is okay. It does sound like it is sort of a motivated sequence, although I do think, like Jake, that the solution step needs a lot more development that's going on here. Presentation-wise, way too much reading. It's obvious, even though you look up on a pretty regular basis, when you listen to your voice, it's obvious that you're reading because it just seems like it's not flowing smoothly. You're having to go through the words and deliberately say them. There are a couple of pronunciation illustrations on this too that you just trip over. If you went back over it, you'd know exactly how to say those words. I know you would, because they're not that complicated, but because you're reading, they just look like words and you're just saying whatever comes to mind in that situation. I just thought that was a little bit awkward. And I'd agree, sort of like the evidence that you presenting at the end sort of seems like you are not diminishing what you're saying, but in essence, mitigating it so much that maybe there's not really a controversy anymore. So you want to be careful about overdoing it with the kind of hedging of your claim. All right, thank you.